Good morning from Brussels and welcome to the second day of the European Cluster Conference 2020. I hope you are all excited as we are, and I'll quickly brief you what we have in our program for today. A welcoming words on behalf of the European Commission as well as the German Presidency. Presentation of the shortlisted candidates for the Cluster Manager of the Year 2020 award, when the voting will start. Wrap-up Day 1, main points from the World Cafe on Green Deal, digitalisation, resilience and skills. Then we'll have European Expert Group on Clusters. Members of the European Expert on Clusters will present discussions and draft recommendations. Breakout sessions on cluster strengthening industrial ecosystem, cluster award ceremony, and EU cluster virtual matchmaking event. Please join me in welcoming Marek for the opening remarks and official start of the event. The floor is yours, Marek.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the European Commission, I would like to invite you for the session today, for the whole day, and thank you very much you joined us yesterday, and thank you very much you are joining us today as well. In particular, I want to welcome as well the people from the countries where they celebrate the national holidays. We know it's not easy to join at the moment when you have a holiday, all the more so. Thank you very much for this effort, and I hope our conference will be quite a good reason for you to be with us. Then I would like to slowly recall what we did yesterday. We had the speeches of our high-level persons, so our commissioner, Mr. Breton, and Minister of Economy in Germany, Mr. Altmaier, who stressed important role of clusters in the COVID in recovery. Then we had the panel where we invited the Ministry of Lithuania, State Secretary from Romania, and we had the representative of Ministry of Economy in Germany. As well, the high-level representative from Business Europe, SME United, and the European Cluster Alliance, of course. And then we had the panel on practical work of clusters, where we had the representatives responsible for cluster policy from Poland, from Flanders. We had the cluster managers from Slovakia, from Italy. And then we had a representative from research and business, stressing the very important role of research and business collaboration. And then we had 4 sessions which are highlighting the main priorities we have. So green, digital, resilience and skills, with a short presentation of the European Commission and real case of the cluster. And then we had discussions in the World Cafe, and the wrap-up of these discussions you will hear from the people who were involved in the wrap-up in a second. At the end of the day, we had the financing session when we discussed what is needed in order to have the projects really put in place with a financial backing. So let me thank you for this participation yesterday, welcome you today. Imagine we are all today together. Usually, at this moment in time, every time we had many people here in front of us. We have many people in front of us virtually. We are together physically, in a distance, social distance, keeping this in these unprecedented times and unprecedented conference we will never forget. Thank you very much, German Presidency, for being with us, for helping us preparing this conference. And I would like you now to address the conference. Berlin, you're welcome.
Good morning, Mrs. Shilkova. Good morning, Marek. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for your nice words. First, a big warm welcome from Berlin, from the German Presidency, to all of you, to all participants. We hope you had a really good night. I look really excited to the coming program, especially the breakout sessions. As our minister said yesterday, the identification of the 14 ecosystems is a very important part of the European industrial strategy. And we are really curious how cluster managers will use these ecosystems to develop ideas and best practices to overcome the current economical challenges. We need your help. We have to find new and existing strategies to make the best out of the current circumstances. We all need to be part of this solution, so therefore, thank you for your effort. I wish us all a successful second day of the cluster conference, and we look forward to your valuable input. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, can I?
And now it's time to be back in the studio and to see our shortlisted candidates for the Cluster Manager of the Year 2020 award. Few words prior that. Clusters are managed by people who dedicate their professional life to bring together different actors of industrial ecosystems. Cluster managers facilitate the cooperation between cluster members and promote their activities. Cluster managers need to apply various types of knowledge, from project management to communication to understanding risk management, innovation, digitalisation, sustainable development. The list here is endless. Strategic cluster management is a driving force for transforming and accelerating the growth and competitiveness of enterprises. Cluster Manager of the Year award provides an opportunity for European cluster managers to showcase their excellence for the European Union to promote the excellence of European cluster initiatives. This year, the award has been designed to focus on communication aspects of the cluster. Therefore, when our shortlisted candidates will be presenting, we would like to hear, and I believe all the audience would like to hear, these abilities. It is time to present the candidates. They will be presented in alphabetical order. So we have Corinne Faras, Cluster Manager of Tectera.
Yes. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Corinne.
Yes. Self-presentation in 3 minutes.
Yes.
It is both very long and very short to summarize 30 years spent to develop collaboration between industrials, institutional players, users, retailers, in order to participate for their growth. How to explain in 3 minutes why a woman with a PT English is in front of you this morning to pitch for the election of the European Cluster Manager of the Year. First of all, I am there not for me, but to promote our specialty, innovation, collaborative innovation, and more exactly, open innovation. Not the one to start from big players and try to go down to users, but the open innovation that grows in territories, from the small company and from user or idea makers, and step by step embark more and more people for the common growth. We develop this kind of open innovation in the very high-tech sector that participates actively to the evolution of the transportation, of the military equipment, of the health sector, of aerospace sector. Recently, we have a discussion with the NASA. And at this point, you think that Tectera is a player in biotech, in artificial intelligence, or in electronic? Well, you're close to that. We develop open innovation in the textile industry. So some of will maybe think to speaking of fabrics is pointless, especially in Europe, where that is a major industry moving to the Far East. And it is for this reason that I fight every morning to show that our companies, our ideas, our will, and our territory, we can have and we will have a great and profitable textile industry in Europe. My presence here is also to promote this sector that show that it is possible to react and, for instance, in developing European and international collaboration. Last year, creation of an European Economic Interest Group, and also early player in the signature of the Memorandum of Cooperation between France and Japan governance, or becoming leader in a cluster Go International on dual applications for defense and security. Well, in imagining new solution. But having new solution without communication is nothing. So we set up a strong communication through a monthly newsletter in French, English, but also in Japanese, through the new, not very new digital channel, LinkedIn, Twitter, and so on and so on. But whatever the tool, if you don't have a communication strategy or no content. So during the pandemic, we set up a fully dedicated communication in order to show how textile industry could be a major player in beating the virus. And this work was recognized in Africa, Brazil, etc. And it's probably thanks to this communication strategy and that I am front of you this morning. But to know the detail of this communication, you now have to vote for us, and we will explain our secrets. And even if you don't, if we'll share it anyway, because sharing is her DNA. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Corinne. I wish you luck in this competition today. And it's my pleasure to welcome our second shortlisted candidate, Antonio Novo, the cluster manager of the Spanish cluster IDEA. Antonio, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Theodora, everyone. What should a good communication strategy for a cluster look like? How many members, stakeholders, institutions should a cluster manager reach every week? All the activities you have in mind, I do them twice with a collaborative approach, a great organizational effort, a talented team, and of course, ton of chamomile tea. I am cluster manager of the Cluster IDEA, president of the Spanish Federation of Clusters, and also president of the European Cluster Alliance. My team and I work to represent more than 740 clusters across Europe through 14 national cluster networks. How can we do that? Our cluster, IDEA, has two excellent communication specialists, Nina Hoffman and Carmen Fernandez, and a communication budget of more than 100,000 euros in 2019. Honesty, creativity, and digital capabilities are our best friends. Communication should always create trusted links. This spirit materializes in our face-to-face meetings, working groups, assemblies, and congresses, up to 100 during a year, including up to 8 regional events and the yearly National Congress of Clusters in Spain. And we use many communication tools, CRM environment, mailings, internet networks, to open doors and possibilities for our members on regional, national, and international levels. I have been at the core of creating the European Cluster Alliance. Our first and main goal is to give a common voice to the European cluster community, enabling us to communicate and act at the highest levels possible. We need it. To increase the role of clusters in the new European programs, we have presented several position papers and communications, some of them in presential modes, to the European Commission, the European Parliament, and the European Economic and Social Committee. In March, we launched the European Alliance Against Coronavirus in close collaboration with DigiGrow. This voluntary forum links not only industrial and social clusters, but many representatives from civic movements and public authorities. We have organized more than 170 public video conferences with more than 7,300 accumulated attendance. One of the video sessions welcomed European Commissioner Thierry Breton, streamed live to more than 1,000 viewers. This new European network has opened direct links to dozens of institutions and services on the European Commission that previously haven't worked with clusters. I feel that with my candidacy, are representing our common efforts, and our achievements merit this public recognition. Ideally, it will be to all of us. Thank you for all your support.
Thank you, Antonio. I really like you mentioning honesty and trust is the most important within the communication. And now I would like to present the third shortlisted candidate, Uwe Vell, Cluster Manager of Cluster IT Logistics Cluster and e-Mobilitas Cluster. Uwe, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. Hello, my name is Uwe Pfahl. I'm the cluster manager of, as mentioned, two clusters, the e-mobility cluster and the IT logistics cluster. Both clusters are located in Regensburg. This is a town in the mid of Bavaria. And the focus of the clusters are the new technologies for a better and cleaner transport for people and goods, like e-mobility, like autonomous driving, like hydrogen and fuel cells technologies, but even artificial intelligence, blockchain, and other technologies. By this, we are interlinking ecosystems, the mobility and the logistics ecosystem. But now I'm going to explain why I think why cluster communication is crucial for innovation and how I'm organizing communication processes in my daily work. So first of all, I think communication is strategic. We do communication in a four-step process with a face to the cluster members, but also with a face to the public. And the four steps are activate, exchange, innovate, and promote. Let me explain what I mean by this four-step communication process. Step one, activate, includes all efforts to inform cluster members regularly and to involve them actively in the cluster work. Step two is the exchange step. This step supports the exchange of knowledge and experience between the cluster members. Therefore, we established a lot of event platforms. And this year, our newest project is our cluster podcast, which is a really amazing tool for dissemination and, of the knowledge of the cluster members. Step three is the communication process to innovate. Our success in this process is we had more than 20 million euros funded in technology projects for our cluster members over the last 10 years. And step four is the promote process. It's the communication service to market projects of the cluster and the competencies of the cluster members to the general public and to local and regional authorities. It's the main and the most important interface to the outside world. Therefore, I've established a multi-channel approach, for example, a website, newsletter, social media like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and so on, or participating ourselves at trade fairs. But I think as a cluster manager, it's also important to generate awareness for the cluster manager himself. Therefore, for example, I use LinkedIn. But let me know I would like to let you know what is my mission as a cluster manager. There are three main issues. I think clusters can help to shape the future. Secondly, I think clusters can make the world more greener, more climate friendly by new technologies, and I really truly believe this. And the most important, I think clusters are brokers for innovation and information. That's it. So thanks a lot. And I ask you to vote for me as the cluster manager of the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Uwe. I'm sure that everyone will agree that, as Corinne mentioned at the beginning, 3 minutes, it's not enough to present what the cluster manager have done. But I'm sure that through the communication, they managed to reach most of you, and you know them already. So now the voting is open and will be closed at 11 o'clock. So please, delegates, speakers, friends, express your preferences and vote for one of our shortlisted candidates. It will be, you see, the vote is through Slido. You see it on the screen and will close at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much. I would like to wish a good luck to the shortlisted candidates. And now we will continue with the next session, as was announced earlier of the day. This is the wrap-up of day one, the main points from the World Cafe on Green Deal, digitalization, resilience and skills. I will have here with me Bianca Dragomir to start with the wrap-up on the Green Deal. Bianca is a director of Aviacin Valencia Cluster, Spain.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Bianca.
Can you project the slides, please?
Yes, it will be. You see it all fine?
Yes, if we can go to the next one. So good morning, everyone. I'm going to present the outcomes of the discussions at the World Cafe on Green Deal yesterday. As you know, we had 3 questions based on which we brought our answers. At the first question was, who are the key actors in the green transition? And all economic actors are key actors in the green transition, including media and financial institutions. So it's all about a collective effort, a systemic effort to lead the green transition. Another question that we had was, what do clusters need to be agents of change in the green transition? And clusters as agents of change in the green transition basically need training. First of all, they need good communication. They need knowledge of resource flows. They also need to identify and assess relevance of financing schemes. They need to partner with others, so they need to be multi-collaborative. And they also need to, very important, to measure what they do. So indicators and data are key here. And then we also worked on how can policy instruments help clusters lead the green transition. And in this sense, policy can help by promotion and providing leadership to the clusters. They help also with market incentives. They can help by providing better funding and new mechanisms to channel funds. And they also help by providing longer-term local public-private partnerships, but also by channeling the public procurement to the green transition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bianca, for the wrap-up of the Green Deal session. Okay, so next we are going to the wrap-up of the digitalization, which will be presented by Vasco Lagarto, the Operational Director of ICT Cluster. Vasco, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I hope that you are listening me.
We don't see you, but we hear you for now.
Okay, but probably I have some problems with my camera. Probably it is connected to the deal room. So I think it's better to go ahead in order to not to spend too much time.
Yes. Okay, go
so
ahead.
So can you present the slides now, please?
Yes. You see the slides. Okay.
Okay, so we have also 3 questions. Can you go to, yes, thank you very much. So the first question, who are the key actors to make digitalization happen? And in fact, as you can see from the answer, all the society should be involved. We have the schools, the private and public entities, the citizens, the workers, regional and national governments, and the clusters by nature. So it's in fact a challenge for everybody. In the second question, what do clusters need to do to accelerate uptake of digitalization? Well, skills are the basic, and not only the technical skills, soft skills are also very important. Access to training and digital tools was also mentioned. cross-cooperation among sectors through clusters, highlighting good examples and best practices, promoting the need for vision and a long-term plan, increasing the cooperation among big companies, usually with more resources, and the smaller ones that belong to their supply chain, and taking advantage of the opportunities given by European and national policies. Easy the funding mechanisms, reducing the bureaucracy to allow an easier involvement of SMEs. And here, the cascade funding is a good example to follow that can even foster the innovation and creativity of the stakeholders. The next slide, please. Okay, the third question, how can policy instruments help clusters accelerate digitalization? Well, funding programs for digital projects, private and public, including public procurement, and simplified access to loans for the investment of new digital solutions. Support collaboration between clusters and digital innovation hubs, local and European. Support training, access, upskilling for managers and employees, and capacity building of service for digital industries. Also developed advanced communication infrastructures to leverage EU capacities and foster major EU digital players. And more EU-supported cluster cooperation projects with minimum bureaucracy for SMEs. Again, the promotion of projects using cascade funding led by clusters. This mechanism has also the advantage of only a small part of the money is for the promoters of the project. The partners become active seekers for innovative SMEs, creating mechanisms to even increase cooperation and open space for future network. And thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you very much for this precise wrap-up of the yesterday's session. And now we will go to the wrap-up of resilience. This would be done by Ségolène Laloutre, International Responsible Internationalization in the Cosmetic Valley, France.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. As the other, I'm going to make the wrap-up of this resilience. I don't know why you can see me, but anyway, I'll go to the slide. Normally, it works. Maybe we can go to the slides. It doesn't matter. The important is in the slide. So to start up, the first question, as the others, who are the key actors to help clusters address societal challenge? Of course, me. The important actors to help cluster to address those societal challenges are, of course, public authorities as regional, national level governments, civil society, SMEs, big groups, research institute, research organization, clusters, industrial association, and of course, in digital innovation hubs. This requires to gather the necessary actors to enable systematic strategic foresight. I don't know, you don't have the slide, but it doesn't matter. I keep going. Where civil society, organization, and academia can help to understand societal challenges, while retailers are often the first to feel the change in consumer behavior. And the other part is the orchestration, I can say, of the system, mobilizing various actors to engage, initiating experiments, negotiating, coordinating between policy areas. Cluster management organization are key actors for that purpose, owing that their triple helix cooperation and their capacity to engage multiple actors. On the second question, what should cluster do to avoid disruption in supply and value chain? Well, cluster can be coordinators to anticipate, to identify, and to address disruption by identifying, sorry, I have to wake up, the vulnerability of or the weak points of the value chain, looking for substitute and potential partners across borders, collaborating to shorten and diversify supply chain. Also building up networks with several providers for each step of the way. Creating space for gathering various actors together, enabling them to experiment and develop solutions together. Another point is supporting some flexibility of production capacities of companies in value chains to help them to address shortage and other disruption. And the last point would be helping companies reduce their exposure to shocks, such as cybersecurity tools or digitalisation. And we think the ECCP could support supply chain risk management. On the last question, to end up, what about policy instruments to help cluster to build resilience? Policy instruments should help create a supportive business environment, promote digitalization and the simplification procedure, provide for certain flexibility in rules so that company and cluster can react quickly. I know it's quite hard for a big, huge policy, but it's very important to be reactive and to act quickly in that period we're facing. Support skill development, such as digitalization, inclusion of new expertise, such as sustainability manager or multidisciplinary. Another point is incentivize collaboration through sectors and with the active participation of all the actors through, for example, open database to connect the various supply chain actors, to facilitate partnership, to cross-clustering events, which is very important. So thank you for the organization of this event. Networking events at EU, but also at national level. And the last 2 points is to support the development of EU-wide framework for holistic digitalization and supply chain risk management. Last point would be proposed support scheme, including funds for investment to help cluster invest in the area which are key for their members' resilience, once again, such as digitalization, better stock management, and diversification of suppliers and clients, or turning to a circular economy, which would allow for more resilience on available materials. Thank you very much this period. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, and please stay with us through the entire day. Okay, so we are going to the wrap-up on skills, which will be presented by Lucia Zil, European cluster expert from Austria. Lucia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Theodora. Can you see me? Can you hear me well?
Yes, we hear you. We see you.
Thank you very much. So first, I would like to start as an introduction by recalling the principles of the European Pact for Skills Charter that was launched yesterday evening. And these are promoting a culture of lifelong learning for all, building strong skills partnerships, monitoring the supply and demand for skills and anticipating the skills need, as well as working against discrimination and for gender equality and for equal opportunities. I thought this would be a nice introduction to the topic of skills that we discussed yesterday into World Cafes. Can you please go to the next slide where I have placed the key messages coming out from the discussions. And the first one is that skilling of the sector's workforce should be on the strategic agenda of each cluster. Skilling activities are carried out probably in every cluster in a lighter or a more complex way. And in a survey carried out by the Go Cluster program in Germany, 90% of the respondents stated how important it is. Is it important like innovation? Is it important like collaboration, like internationalization, or any other strategic theme of interest on the cluster agenda? And it's important to reflect about this question, as without acting right now for having the right skills tomorrow, there can hardly be innovation. Secondly, clusters need to be recognized as interlocutors, especially by the public administrations and institutions. While clusters have been, are, and most probably will have the recognition for their input and for their impact in industrial, economic, territorial development, they may not have the same recognition in the domain of upskilling and reskilling of clusters, and they need to be seen as an important contributing partner and actor in this field. Broadening the engagements and connections with actors related to skills is another important point. Clusters should engage with a multitude of actors they are currently interacting with. Don't name all of them, there's a very large, long list. But not only from an innovation and collaboration perspective, but also from a and there was a call for increased as well as utilizing using members to drive and to build collective experience. And last but not least, upskilling and reskilling may be looked at as part of a lifelong learning. The education system needs to be to enable the adjustment of the workforce to changes and to provide training and storage, but still need the labor market next given the length of experience.
Lucia,
And
Lucia, you
yes,
hear me? Because we
yes,
don't hear
here.
you quite well. I mean, you are breaking up from time to time. Can you please try to adjust something to your voice or to the mic
Can
or?
I see? I hear another interference. But anyway, I would just like to state that lifelong learning is crucial to help the workforce adapt to the changes that will occur in the next 10 to 20 years, and help the workers embrace new ways of working or new skills. And with this, I wrap up the session on skills. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lucia. Before going to the next session, I would like to remind you once again that the voting for the Cluster Manager of the Year 2020 is open, and please use Slido. You see the code for the Slido. It's hashtag clusters 2020, and the voting will be open till 11 o'clock. So it is really important to give your voice and choice for who should be the Cluster Manager of the Year. Okay, so now we will be going to the next part, as it was announced earlier of the day, that this is the session on the European Expert Group on Clusters, where members of the European Expert Group on Clusters will present their thoughts and draft recommendations. It is my pleasure to give the stage to Marek, who will be managing that session. Thank you, Marek.
Ladies and gentlemen, we set up a group for expert work on clusters, which is working with us for last year on recommendations which we can use then later in our policy making. We are preparing the draft recommendation of this cluster group, and right now we wanted to share the still work in progress, but we want to share it in our cluster conference, that you can further discuss it as well during the ecosystem sessions. So we are going to have now the representatives of this expert group, Alberto Pezzi, Krzysztof Krystowski, and Emily Weiss, who will shortly present the recommendations, and they are in line with the schedule of our conference, meaning we structured this in a way that we tackle the green, digital, and resilience. At the same time, I would like to encourage you very much to take part in our ecosystems breakout sessions after the meeting, because we need your input. It was fantastic, and thank you very much for all the input of our colleagues who wrapped up all these sessions yesterday. You see the input is coming. It is really have an impact. We can really integrate in a very practical way into our policy making. So this can be as well taken into account in this recommendation paper of the cluster group, which we will discuss further. And we want to have this recommendation report ready by the end of this year, and then work on this in the next year in implementation. So let me give the floor to the first speaker. Thank you very much. Krzysztof, the floor is yours.
Yes, I hope you can hear me now. Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be with you this morning. In fact, in Poland, we have today a national holiday, but it is a big pleasure to work during holidays. So let me share with you a few observations. Yes, we have discussed in our group those three most important challenges for EU recovery plan, like digital transition, green transition, and resilience. I am responsible for sharing with you some observations regarding cluster role in leading the green transition. And I think this is very natural for clusters to become a leader of every type of challenges, economic challenges, development challenges of European Union. And green transition is one of these examples. So what we have discussed, what we found out is that green transition, first of all, needs agents of change, needs somebody who is a leader, who promote this area of change of our economy. And we can easily use clusters as drivers of change, but also accelerators, enablers of the green transition. And what is very important, that we can also consider clusters as a element of as a partners for dialogue to establish policies together with public authorities. And in the third step, to adapt these policy instruments just to the needs of industry, because we are so close to our members, to our companies. Then you can see that circular economy becomes a new element of our economic landscape, and clusters could be very good tool to implement these circular economy strategies, action plans, and also to detect opportunities for reuse, bring circularity in the business process, and to strengthen industrial symbiosis. The next slide, please. And now, three next observations is about the need to have flagship policy initiatives which will serve to mobilize SMEs, but not only companies, but also even entire civil society. And here also clusters are very natural candidate to have this mandate to mobilize European societies, European SMEs, European companies, generally speaking, to be involved in this kind of flagship initiatives. Then the next element is that clusters could be very good supporters to raising awareness and good practices sharing on green solutions. This is very clear that we are building not only regional, but then national, but then European networks of clusters, of companies, of our members. And for us, for our organizations, it is much easier than for other type of organizations to share those this knowledge, those practices, and to exchange information and experience between our members. And finally, SMEs, access to green knowledge and financing. This is extremely important because if we are considering a Green Deal as one of the main direction of European economic development, we cannot forget that SMEs are majority of our economies, of our countries, of European Union. So without involvement of SMEs, we cannot realize any type of European policy. That's why clusters are very important as intermediaries to support and mobilize SMEs because we are so close to them. And also we can improve SMEs' approach to financing by working together with financial and also public institutions to support SMEs with collecting finance for investment in green change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Krzysztof. And now immediately we jump to the next one. Emily Weiss, could you please share your views on digital? I mean the cluster.
Sure.
Next slide, please.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for inviting me to participate and share the group's draft recommendations on accelerating the digital transition. We heard many times yesterday, first from Commissioner Breton about the need to accelerate the digitalization of the entire economy and what kinds of things are necessary for that. And we heard just earlier this morning the summary from the World Cafes yesterday from Vasco, and a lot of these draft recommendations are mirrored in the discussions that went on in the World Cafe. So that brings me solace because I'm a little bit the least apt of the group to talk about accelerating the digital transition. But a lot of these themes, under 5 draft headings, that we've been talking about them over the course of these last 2 days. First and foremost, I would say, is the importance of education and skills, building skills for the digital transition. And clusters can be very instrumental in this and helping to build skills not only of their participating stakeholders, most primarily SMEs who perhaps don't have the capacity to access or spend the time in knowing what kind of digital solutions can be taken up, but also for themselves, for cluster organizations themselves, digitalizing their services. And we've heard and we've seen publications from a number of member states of cluster organizations digitalizing their services. So enabling them to promote the uptake of digital solutions. Second recommendation is the integration of physical and digital systems. And with this, it's taking cluster organizations, taking their business services to the next level to integrate the key enabling technologies and the digital solutions and with physical systems to enhance manufacturing and bring it to the next level. Next slide, please. And these key components of skills and integrated systems are both aspects of services that are to be delivered by digital innovation hubs across Europe. So it makes a lot of sense that clusters are integrated or linked into the work of the digital innovation hubs, incorporating them into the governance and operational structures and leveraging their broader networks to connect with the broader ecosystem of actors and ensure that the services are meeting demands in this ecosystem. Another topic that we spoke a lot about yesterday was the importance of initiating and working in longer-term partnerships with the public sector, and that clusters can take a leading role in this to initiate public-private partnerships for these longer-term digital transformation efforts. Or enhancing existing digital transition efforts. And finally, in the same spirit of longer term collaboration is leveraging clusters knowledge to participate in European policies and programs for the digital transition, not only in providing intelligence and informing the policy design, but also reaching out in enabling and mobilizing their actor groups to implement the policies. Thank you very much. That's it for the digital transition chapter.
Thank you, thank you, Emily. It was really clear, concise, as Christoph did. So, Alberto, please, for the resilience, the same. Welcome. Tell us what expert group came up with.
Okay, can you hear me? And thanks, first of all, for giving me this opportunity of sharing with you this important conclusion from the expert group. The last block is regarding build the resilience. In fact, I think this is a bit the last topic that emerged, but it emerged strongly as a reaction to the COVID outbreaks. So this capacity of the resilience, the capacity of recovering for a shock from a disruption, I think it's something that is very linked to cluster, to the nature of cluster as ecosystem, and cluster will emerge even stronger from this. So regarding this block, we have basically 5 additional recommendations. The first one regards cluster as a tool for strategic intelligence. I think this is very important and probably is linked to the other recommendation. And I think it's very important because really cluster could be an important tool for helping taking decision. For instance, the first is relying on cluster for reconsidering value chain and reshaping, rebuilding these value chains that have been disrupted by the crisis. But also cluster could also be useful not only for reacting to this, but to anticipating future disruption and future problems we can have in a so turbulent business environment. So cluster could be also a very important tool for helping in an activity that it will be more and more important in the future, and that the Commission also already started, that is the strategic foresight initiative. So this is, I think it's very important, and cluster could be a good tool for linking this. The 12th recommendation is regarding, again, an issue that is transversal to all and present, is a fil rouge in all the recommendations, that is the reskilling and upskilling of workforce. Also in building resilience is very important, the role that cluster will have in and use as intermediary between industry and research, education, all the knowledge provided, and connecting skill demands and supply. This is a very important role that cluster could do, because they are the ones that are better in contact with companies and especially SMEs need. So also mobilize cluster actor for effective participation in the European Paths for Skills that is already been mentioned. Then the 13th recommendation regarding another very important role that for cluster the cluster could play, that is using cluster for addressing societal challenges. Clusters are a wonderful tool for understanding how the business environment and the society is changing, and they could be also very good as some pioneer initiative as already shown for bringing, especially to SMEs, the approach of share value. So this approach that have been defined some years ago by Professor Porter and Kramer, in which at the same time we create economic and social value. And this is, I think, it's an epoch in which we really need it a lot. And then strengthening clusters' ability to help company to construct new product and service to respond to societal challenges. And I think that the best example we had is the one that the answer to from cluster to the COVID outbreak. The next slide, please. Okay, thanks. So number 14 is related to the facilitating the access to global value chain. And I think this is something that probably we already know. So reinforce the cluster ability to look for trade, investment, and partnership opportunity in the global markets. And this is, I think, that the work on helping cluster internationalization will play an important role. And then increase cluster through cluster the capacity of European SMEs to be present in international markets. So SMEs market export capacity and benefit from the EU free trade agreements. Finally, the last recommendation is related to the joint initiative Eurocluster, that this is pursuing the initiative that was proposed by the European Commission for a new generation of strategic partnership. I think we have already seen a lot here in the European scenario during the last month. And use also this initiative to connect ecosystem across regions and sectors to strengthen value chain, to boost innovation, internationalization, and scaling up the support to SMEs. I think, and last but not least, a cluster will be also a wonderful tool for sharing knowledge and facilitates this industrial transformation. I think we have a desperate need of sharing knowledge also in this context of crisis, and to learn a lot from each other, from best practice that be to the nature of cluster itself. Thank you very much.
Yes. But it will.
You will tell me when.
We will. Okay. So thank you very much for your input, both in the wrap-up sessions from the World Cafe, as well from the experts during all our meetings at expert group. We need to consolidate as policymaker and prepare the policy instruments and policy recommendations which are fit for purpose, which are really important in this context, in this period of time. So thank you very much. But again, as we had yesterday, and thank you very much to everyone who joined the World Cafe session yesterday. We are welcome, and please join our session at 10 o'clock with World Cafe in the ecosystem setup. So we have introduced this ecosystem, 14 ecosystems, which are, as our commissioner said, this is the range of actors involved in ecosystem, from big to micro enterprises, from academia to research, from civil society. Everyone who can bring added value, who can bring and work on ecosystem is important. So we want to discuss it, clusters' role as well in these ecosystems, in all these 14, starting from tourism and health. At the end, so today we are going to have this 14 ecosystems. First, we start with 7 sessions in breakout sessions. So we are invited to join us at 10 o'clock. How it will look like? You just in deal room, you click on joining the breakout room, and then you are in the sessions. And then the colleague from European Commission will shortly introduce what is the agenda. Then we will have the presentation of the European Commission setting the scene for the concrete ecosystem. Then we will have concrete case from the cluster, from the ecosystem, and then we invite you to come and discuss in the ecosystem. And we will have as well filling the template, responding to questions. It really matters. You give us input. We are very grateful for this. Please join the sessions. Teodora, please let us know what is then later.
Okay, so thank you for inviting everyone to join the breakout sessions. You've been very informative how they to proceed. I just want, before going to the breakout sessions, I also will be joining the tourism one because it's very important for me. But I would like once again to invite everyone to vote for the European Cluster Manager of the Year. Once again, the voting will close at 11 o'clock. So please use Slido. The hashtag is clusters2020. So to see, to make your choice, and we to have the winner, and which will be available to vote by the 11 o'clock. Between the breakout sessions, we will have another quiz session with Alan. So I would like everyone to join this session as well. And after the second breakout session, we will be having the ceremony. So stay with us, join the breakout sessions, and we'll see you shortly.